Welcome to the Lorehounds Oscar Prep Series. I'm your substitute host, Alicia.
And I'm Jean. Probably not the voice you were expecting to hear. Ah,
We'd already asked Jean to join us for this final Oscars episode, as we'll be discussing some of the movies we all talked about together before. So now we're especially grateful that Jean can step in while David is in bed fighting with the COVID monster.
feel better soon. Feel better soon.
Yeah.
Today we're covering what we're calling the Blockbuster Awards, or the technical awards if you're being, haha, technical about it. These are the visual and audio awards, the crafts that make movies look and sound the way they do.
This is the third episode in our Oscars prep series. If you want to hear it all, you can start with our teaser episode released on February 18th, followed by part one, the headliners from February 27th, and part two, the hidden gems released earlier this week.
We'll make sure you know what's nominated, including a couple of nominated films you might not have heard of before, and many that you have. We'll point out the most likely winners and share the stories behind the different races.
And like in parts one and two of this series, we're calling in some extra voices from the Lorehounds family and beyond, including one many of you will be familiar with. Jean,
It's
so we told
me! Hi!
We're looking forward, John, to hearing your reactions to everything. We haven't gotten to chat with you yet about any of this.
Cool. And we want to hear your thoughts too. Which movies you're enjoying, your reactions to the winners, Death Race success stories. Email us all your feedback at lorehounds at thelorehounds.com, or even easier, just head over to thelorehounds.com and use the contact form or the voicemail feature there. Do also check out our Discord community and jump into the film discussion. Links are in the show notes.
Also, we'd be forever grateful if you could help us get more ears tuned into this special series. Please pass this episode along to anyone else you think would appreciate some Oscar intel, or just leave a 5-star rating and review wherever you're listening. It really helps the algorithm point more people in our direction. So, Jean, thanks so much for being here. I mean, thanks that you're already planning on being here, and thanks extra now.
Thanks for having me. Thanks for inviting me.
What's your Oscar history, by the way? Did you grow up watching?
Yes, we would all huddle around our television set Oscar night and watch the Oscars, my siblings and I, when I was much younger. And yeah, this was appointment viewing in our house at that time.
Yeah. And how's your movie watching going these days?
Um, as with everything post COVID, it's not as robust as I normally would like it to be, but I
Mhm.
do find, my way to seeing the things that I really do want to see. Um, yeah, but I'm very picky about the situations now. And I'm
Mm.
just waiting for the day when I don't have to be as picky a screener and a viewer as I've been over the last 2 years, really.
Right, because of time, you mean?
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
So a lot of times I'll wait until something comes out on VOD,
Right. Yep.
and watch it there. But in other cases where you have to see it, you have to see it. So
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Marvel's still appointment viewing for us at least.
yeah, exactly.
So any movies you're rooting for this year you want to shout out in general, Oscar nominated or not?
There's nothing that I'm rooting for, but there is the big snub, and we'll
Uh
get to it when we get to it. I think you might know where I'm going with it already. There's one huge snub that, for the life of me, I don't understand what people are afraid of.
mhm.
But we'll get there when we get there.
Okay, okay. And yeah, so David, by the way, while he's all laid up in isolation, he's tackling some of his final Best Picture nomination watches. So we'll check
Okay,
in on his thoughts on Poor Things later. He watched
cool.
that today. And yeah, we'll also hear from him again after the ceremony. We were talking about doing a quick wrap up episode to respond to the ceremony itself, and any surprises or highlights, and preview some films that might be contenders next year.
Awesome.
Like,
I
have
mean, we
you?
already know what the winner is
Yeah,
for
what Dune?
next year. Absolutely.
Yeah,
I can't.
yeah,
We already have
Dune
the winner. We have the
coming
winner. We
in
have
with
the winner.
14 nominations.
Yeah, exactly. and taking 10 of the 14.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's definitely our first major Oscar contender is has arrived and is not going anywhere for the rest of the year, I have a
Oh
feeling.
God, no. Oh, that thing is that's gonna be a monster. Yeah.
Yeah, I was, I'm one of the ones who was kind of had mixed feelings about the first part, but I am all in on part
Really,
2. Mhm.
I did not know that.
Yep,
We had
yep.
not talked about that.
Yeah,
Wow.
I've talked about it with David because we're both like we both were bothered by being, as we call in the Wheel of Time Kingdom, book cloaks. We were
Yes,
like,
yes.
yeah, you changed that and
Okay.
why? And I don't, yeah.
Right, right.
Just for that long, slow shot. But I think overall, it's just a whole new level now. But anyway, that's next year's Oscars. For now, I'm actually still finishing something called the Mecha Death Race. So the Death Race, for anyone who missed the prior episodes, is basically people who watch every Oscar-nominated movie in a year or die trying, hence the
Yes.
name. So that's 53 films this year, including a bunch of shorts, of course.
Where are you at?
And well, I've the Oscar is all done. So then after that, the next level is the Mega, where you also watch the BAFTAs, the Spirit nominees, and I think the Golden Globes are included in that too.
Goodness gracious.
So all done. so now
So
I'm
you're
finished.
done.
So now I'm finishing up the Mecca, which also adds the Oscar shortlists, the BAFTA long lists, and the Deathies are the Academy of Death Racers. That's a ceremony that takes place on YouTube the night before
The
the
Oscars?
Oscars. Mhm.
Yeah.
So the idea is that everyone there has watched all the movies, so it's supposed to be like the most fair voting. But then we also have these extra categories, and I'm presenting 2 of them.
Oh,
Um,
that's awesome. What
yeah,
time?
it starts at 6 p.m. Eastern time.
Oh, send a link. Send a link.
Yeah, we'll put a link in the show notes in case anyone wants to check it out. We're gonna let's just say one of my videos I'm planning to make tomorrow involves cat wrangling, so wish me luck. um, but yeah, if anyone at home wants to track their Oscars Death Race progress, there's the Oscars Death Race website is a very nice, simple interface where you can just check off movies. There's a more complicated where you can do the different levels of races on deathracetracking.com. And when you're looking for help finding movies, go to the subreddit Oscars Death Race. Just use the search function before posting, please. So yeah, Jean, you going to be watching the Oscar ceremony
On
Sunday
and off.
night?
I
Yeah.
probably won't sit through the entire thing, but we'll be switching back and forth, watching social on maybe on threads or
Mhm.
blue sky just to see what's being presented. And then, based on what's being presented, turn the TV to the channel. But I'm not
Okay.
really the last couple of years I haven't really been invested in watching Oscar or any sort of award show really.
Yeah.
And the only award show that I think I've watched sort of religiously in I'd say the last 10, 15 years, maybe the Game Awards.
Okay.
But even the Grammys, I'm not really tuning into that either. So it's really a change in my viewing habits, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a lot of people are feeling that way in the awards show industry is feeling it. You see some of them switching around channels, looking for a new place to land when they're
Right.
not seen as a good investment. But I'm hoping that this year, the fact that there are bigger movies nominated, just not just because they're nominating more popular movies, but because some really quality movies became enormously popular. So
Yeah, yeah, and that's always a good thing.
and we're off to a good start with Dune, obviously, this year. So here's hoping that that's a trend that continues, and then yeah, it becomes more fun because
Right, right.
yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Did you see the Barbie promo Kimmel did?
I did. It was hilarious.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was hilarious. She's Kate McKinnon. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, she's just everything she does leaves me in tears. She's
Yeah.
she's she's great. She's just great, and I loved her in the movie as well.
Yeah. She would be a great Oscar host, I think.
She would be. Yeah, you're absolutely right about that. She would
I
be.
think she would draw in numbers too.
I think so. I think so. She's a really good comedian. She's really good at what she does, at her craft.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I like Kimmel. This is his, 4th time hosting, which it's a record that he has tied with Whoopi Goldberg and Jack Lemmon, RIP. Are you a Kimmel fan or you
I'm not.
like him? No?
I'm not a Kimmel fan. I'm not. What's the other guy? Uh,
The other Jimmy?
yeah, Fallon.
Yeah.
I don't. I'm not a fan of either one of those persons. So
The
late
Jimmys
night.
don't do it for you.
Yeah, they don't.
Yeah. I like Kimmel better than Fallon personally. Fallon feels
Yeah, I
off
think
me to
most
me.
people do.
Yeah.
I think that's the choice of most people.
For those of you who are tuning in, then the ceremony is at 7 p.m. Eastern time, which is actually so the ceremony is 1 hour earlier than it usually is. Yay. Um, and the US clocks also changed that morning. So it's
And
actually,
daytime savings time.
yeah, yeah.
Daylight savings. End it. End it. Right, I'm
I
off my
know,
soapbox.
exactly. Exactly. It's annoying. But right now, I like that this means that this ceremony, instead of starting at 2 a.m. for me, is going to start at midnight for me.
Oh wow, that is a big deal.
Yeah. But yeah, so it's airing on ABC in the US or abc.com. And you can check oscars.org to see where it's airing around the world.
So Oscar night normally has been an early party day for you. Like how have you handled it over the years? Being
Um,
overseas, do you like?
yeah, I mean, so it's often starts with a nap earlier in the day or a nap leading up to it. And then, because, humans used to sleep in two parts before the Industrial Revolution. And we used to like get up in the middle of the night for an hour or so. So it's like more extreme version of that.
Okay, okay. That's nice. That's nice.
That's how I think about it. It helps to be a freelancer, and then I just
Right, of
obviously
course.
I know that the next day is not the day to schedule things.
Oh, that's funny.
But one thing I forgot to say about the
Yeah.
Oscars in the first episode is that actually, an important thing to understand about the Best Picture prize is that it's actually done by ranked choice voting. So all the other categories, you just pick one of the five, and for the Best Picture, you rank all 10 Best Pictures so that they calculate the first round, all the first place votes, and then the lowest one on the list falls off, and then they calculate all the second place votes for those ballots, and so on and so forth until they get
Do you
down to
like
the winner.
that?
Yeah, I think that's a better way of voting, and we should do it
Oh,
in
okay.
politics too. Yeah.
Oh, we definitely should do some politics.
I mean, they tried in New York and it got a little messy, but that's just human error. People just have to get
Yeah, the
used to
more
it.
you do something, the better
Yeah.
you get at it. Hopefully, right? So
Yeah.
don't let the setback stop it all. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, it's like it gives me comfort because I don't have a vendetta against Oppenheimer or Maestro, but I would prefer other films win. So I have like 8
Tell me,
chances to
really, you're not an Oppenheimer Maestro fan, huh?
yeah.
I wouldn't have known that. Dear listener, I'm being very sarcastic now.
Yeah, I know. I've mentioned it once or twice. But you know what I am a fan of? It's official. Ryan Gosling is officially doing the Ken song at the ceremony. You got to watch for that.
Yeah, that was one of my favorite songs of last year.
Yeah. Yeah, and of course all the other best song nominees are performing too, but whatever.
Right. It's all about Ken. It's all about
Yeah,
Ken.
of course. But yeah, I like a little spectacle. These are the categories that really are the ones that like bring the spectacle. So as I mentioned before, go back, check out parts 1 and 2 for the breakdowns of the best picture nominees, the acting, directing, and writing categories, and what we call the hidden gems, the animation, international docs, and shorts. But today we're covering the rest of the categories you'll see. So that's VFX, film editing, cinematography, production design, costumes, hair and makeup, sound, score, and song. And these are basically the awards that are rewarding the artists who, make a movie, make it a spectacle. The people responsible for transporting us to new worlds. On the way, we're going to be revisiting the 10 best pictures that we talked about in part 1, and you'll be hearing 9 of those names a lot in this episode, plus the names of a bunch of other biggest movies of the year like Guardians of the Galaxy 3 and Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning, along with mixed in there a couple one nomination wonders you might not have heard of, with of
Hmm.
course some new voices chiming in.
Cool.
Actually, want to start with a voicemail from Mike Manolo of Nerds of Color. And He has some strong feelings about his favorite films of the year, and he's sick of people not taking some of them seriously just because they happen to be comic book movies. So, Jean, this felt like something that might be near and dear to your hearts as well.
Oh, it
Um,
definitely is. It definitely is.
yeah, so we're talking about the blockbusters, including his number one film of the year today. So I asked him to send in his thoughts and let him, go ahead and call out the film snobs.
All right.
Hey guys, it's Mike Manal from the Nerds of Color, and I've been asked by my good friend Alicia to contribute to the Lorehounds to talk about Oscar snobbery, particularly against movies of the blockbuster variety. Now, I know what you're thinking. A lot of these blockbusters, they already get rewarded by the amount of money that they receive at the box office, and that's true. But I also think that a spade is a spade, and if a movie's really good or the craftsmanship behind it is terrific, then that should also be recognized as well. Now, full disclosure, and judge if you must, my favorite movies of last year were Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, Past Lives, and Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. And yes, I realize I'm probably the only person to put that in my top 3, let alone my top 10. But to be completely honest, it's because I got more emotion and more investment out of a movie like that and the characters within than I ever did a movie like Maestro, which personally I consider to be pretentious Oscar bait. Now, if we were to take Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, in my opinion, I think it's a lot more artistic and a lot more engaging than a movie like Maestro, but it would never even be put into the Best Picture conversation versus a movie like Maestro because A, it's animated, and B, it's about a superhero. And that to me is such a shame. I'm glad it's nominated for Best Animated Feature. I'm glad it has a shot at winning Best Animated Feature. But to not nominate a better movie than another movie just so that you can appease producers like Martin Scorsese and Steven Spielberg, in my opinion, it speaks to what's wrong with the Oscars. It's about appeasing who you know. It's about looking deep or pretending to look deep than it actually is about rewarding the quality of a movie or whether a movie's good or not. Even something like Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. Now, by no means do I think that should have been nominated for Best Picture, but even a technical award like Best Makeup. In my opinion, the craftsmanship, the amount of hours that they put into creating the creatures of Counter-Earth or the High Evolutionary, it's so much more involved and so much harder to do than a movie like, let's say, Golda, or putting a false nose on Bradley Cooper for Maestro. And yet it wasn't even put on the Oscar shortlist, whereas the other two movies were nominated. To me, that really comes down to one thing only, which is probably anti-Marvel bias, or the fact that they're trying to look like they don't consider Marvel cinema so that they can please people like Martin Scorsese. And that superficial reason diminishes the amount of work that is put into the craftsmanship of making these movies, which is a real shame. It's no longer about the quality or the work itself. It's just about something superficial and hollow, or, trying to follow a trend like dissing Marvel movies or something. And that's a real pity. Even something like stunt work, we have yet to receive a stunt category within the Oscars, but we've got one for casting for some reason, despite the fact that people who put in the work and the effort into making movies like John Wick come to life and pop will never get recognized for their contributions, simply because maybe the Academy doesn't consider stunt work really worthy of the Oscars, despite the fact that it's great. It's part of filmmaking. So, in conclusion, I do think that there is something of a bias when it comes to Oscar voters, and it's why we see the same old movies that really pander to the Academy, Oscar bait, if you will, being nominated every single year. I do wish that the Academy would be a little bit more open-minded about animated movies and superhero movies and movies that really do have wonderful craftsmanship but get ignored because of the genres that they're part of, whether it's horror or comedy or what have you. And just go back to rewarding movies because they're great, because the quality and the craftsmanship behind them are great, and less about who you're going to please and who you're going to attract for viewers and trying to look deep and trying to look political. Just reward the movies that deserve it because they are amazing and spectacular feats of art and good quality.
All right. Sean, thoughts?
Well, yeah, we're coming in hot and heavy, and yeah, I love it. That is a kindred soul because I feel the same way.
Yeah,
Um, you know, the movies that we obviously cover over at MC Universe are not viewed as being artistic in any way, and I would say that um,
that's often not fair. And
exactly,
especially Guardians of the Galaxy.
exactly. Into the Spider Verse still remains
Yeah,
my favorite
also.
movie of the year.
Mhm. It should have
So
gotten a Best Picture nomination.
yeah, right. I'm just at a loss for words that it isn't considered one of the best films of the year.
Yeah, I mean, there was some buzz around it, actually. There was some buzz around it, like, that it might break through in Best Picture, that it might, break through in score and song, and a few other places, VFX even.
Right. And I said into excuse me, I'm in a cross, of course, but
Mhm.
it's the best film that I watched this year
Yeah.
in 2023, hands down. There's nothing that comes close to the story to me, and there's nothing that comes close to the visuals. And if you can marry story and visuals, then I don't understand how you can't say, you know what, it's time to change our narrow mindedness
Mhm.
and really reward people for doing the art
Right.
that they're actually doing.
Right. And I would say the same thing about comedies too, that comedies need to the
Yes,
people need to be less snobbish about them.
yes,
Would you
yes,
put Guardians of the Galaxy 3 in your top 10 of the year?
yes. It wouldn't be in my top three, but it's in my top 10.
Okay.
And I'm not a Guardians guy.
No, that's true. That's true. So that says something.
Right.
So yeah, he mentioned also stunt and casting categories. So the story behind that is yeah, there is no stunt category, and a lot of people think there should be for good reason. The BAFTAs had stunt category, even though they award those while people are in the red carpet, they don't show that part. But there is a casting. So the academy has different branches, and there is a casting branch, and they've been lobbying for a long time for an award. And so next year there's going to be a casting award. And people have mixed feelings about it. Like, okay, there's a branch that didn't have an award. There's another one still, marketing. But yeah, and people aren't sure, is this going to be like rewarding an ensemble kind of award? Like, how is this going to be treated? So it's going to be very
Mm,
interesting to see how that plays out.
right. But I think they should have a category for stunts
Yeah, absolutely.
because folks are just as important to many films as anyone else on set.
Mhm.
And they should be recognized for the work that they do.
Yeah,
They should
absolutely.
be celebrated for the work that.
Yeah, but the BAFTA winners, by the way, were Mission Impossible and on the TV side, The Last of Us, which I think is very worthy.
Yeah, that's fair. That's a
Yeah.
fair. I wouldn't quibble with that at all.
And I also agree with Mike that I would have loved to have seen Guardians of the Galaxy and Makeup Over Maestro, and especially Golda, but we'll get to that later on.
Like, how
um,
don't you have a film like Audience as a nominee for makeup? Like, how's that even possible?
yeah, I know, I know. But they don't always snub Marvel in those, but for some reason this year, I think
They did
just
this
that
year.
I think it's the negative story around like Marvel in general, indeed. Yeah.
Fatigue and things of that
Yeah,
nature. You're right.
exactly. But I do think they're getting better about expanding their horizons in general at the Academy, and whether it gets nominated for Oscars. Like, David and I have talked about there's more international films. Also, we have Poor Things as one of the big nominees this year. We had Everywhere, Everywhere All at Once, and Parasite as winners, and these would be seen as definitely outside the Academy norm. So,
Right.
um,
Is Poor Things outside the Academy norms though?
well, I would say just because it's fanciful, it's weird and sci-fi-ish.
Hmm.
It's
Full
not
disclosure, I haven't
it's
watched the
not a
film.
drama. It's not a coming of age drama, or,
Right.
what
Right.
we often
Right.
make the jokes about being. Yeah.
When I haven't watched it, but and when I saw it, I very much thought it was something that the Oscars would look at. When I read about it and did background on the film and who it stars and
Yeah.
story itself, you know. it didn't interest me, but I
Okay.
felt that this was the type of story, given the players around it,
Mhm.
that would get noticed by the Oscars.
Yeah, I mean, it's got a great cast, but, yeah, the Oscars are guilty of that, about favoring, you especially see it in the short films. The films with the famous people get more
Right.
attention. But let's dive into the category where
Yeah,
the
let's do it.
blockbusters, including one of Mike's favorites, are king. So that's VFX. And the 5 nominees for VFX are Guardians of the Galaxy 3, which was the VFX done by a team of studios, The Creator, Industrial Light and Magic, Napoleon, Industrial Light and Magic, Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning, Industrial Light and Magic, and Godzilla Minus One, Toho Studios by the legendary director Takashi Yamazaki. And yeah, so you probably noticed that I was saying one name a lot.
Yes.
So yeah, ILM, Industrial Light and Magic, is kind of dominating the VFX industry in the US. And one of the SFX supervisors has 3 chances to win this year, and another has 2 chances to win. But
That's insane. That's
yeah,
insane.
but the last time when I think about another studio that was like that, there was a studio called Rhythm and Hues, and they were just dominating. And right around the time that they won an Oscar for Life of Pi, they went bankrupt
Oh
because
wow.
they were just being stretched too thin, and that really hasn't gotten much better.
Wow.
Yeah.
So who do you think? Where do your sentiments lie with this category?
Well, so this is the only category today with not a single Best Picture nominee in sight. So we haven't talked about any of these movies yet in Oscar terms, but
Okay.
we have covered 3 of them in full in this podcast. Now, Jean,
Yes.
you and I and David, we covered Guardians of the Galaxy 3 twice, and The Creator, and David and I covered Napoleon. Jean,
Right.
did you get to watch Napoleon?
I did.
Yeah, what did you
I've
think?
watched all of these 5.
Okay, okay, great. What are your thoughts on this category?
Um, for me, the clear winner is the creator.
Yeah, I agree.
Just yeah, I just think that that movie, I can turn off the sound and just watch it
Yeah.
in silence. Just watch the screen as it shifts from scene to scene.
Yeah.
And if a film does what this film does or did for me, which is leave an impression with Nomad,
Mhm.
where that sight of that ship is something that I will never forget whenever I'm watching film.
Yeah. No, I agree. It's stuck in my head, and it's just the sci-fi elements, they look so natural and blended into the environment. It
Yeah,
really That's why when we were talking about that film, you're saying the world building is what you wanna see more of. You wanna see more things set in that world.
absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. Um,
Although yeah.
go ahead.
Well, I was just say I mentioned when we covered it, but it I do think there's some inspiration from the art style of Simon Stålenhag, a Swedish artist who's best known for Tales of the Loop. So if you like this style, look that up.
I mean, it's and not to say anything negative about the other films because I
Mm-mm.
think the other 4 were like if I ranked them in order, Creator would be number 1 for me.
Mhm.
Um, Guardians would be number 2.
Okay.
Godzilla would be number 3.
Okay.
Mission Impossible would be 4, and Napoleon would be 5.
Okay. Okay. I also wish that Spider-Verse were in here. Rebel
Oh,
Moon,
of course.
I think it's okay that Rebel Moon's out, but it was a contender. Poor Things could have been in here, and also Society of the Snow just for that plane crash alone.
Mm.
But yeah, I
But
mean, I can't
Spider
criticize
Man,
anyone in the lineup.
yeah, the Spider Verse is really lacking.
Mhm.
Screams at you.
Yeah.
Like when I saw the category, when I saw it, it screamed at me like, huh?
Yeah.
Like what's going on here?
I'm
What?
sorry, did you blend together, like, hundreds of different worlds of animation?
Like what are we doing here? So
Yeah.
that is, the biggest slight I think of this entire Oscar season.
Okay, even you're like, "Forget Greta and Margot." It's
Yeah,
Spider-Man VFX.
yeah, yeah.
Okay, fair enough. But yeah, of the ones that are nominated, I spoke to some VFX artists, and they are also rooting for the creator. Just FYI.
Wow. Okay.
Um,
Okay.
I did try to get an interview with a VFX artist, but it's a really tough time for them to talk to us because first of all, the industry is getting hit by strike lag. You know, when they were working while the actors and writers were on strike, but the productions were stopped. So
Right.
now the pipeline of work has dried up, and there's a lot of layoffs and the like going on, and there's also a lot of below the line, so to speak, contracts are including VFX contracts are up at the end of July. So they have their own potential strike looming.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah. Speaking of VFX conditions, the story of this season, and the Oscars loves its stories, is that the Godzilla VFX was done by a team of only 35 artists on a 15 million total budget for the film. So, there's a lot of people worried about them that they're clearly overworked and underpaid. This is obviously in Japan where there is just an even more insane work ethic than in the
Right.
US. But they created something incredible, and it's
Incredible.
probably going to be the winner, I think.
You think it's going to be Godzilla?
Yeah, I think it's first of all, it's a chance to reward a widely loved film, and it's also people are impressed by this story of, like, how cheaply they made it.
Hmm.
And it's
Interesting.
also the other interesting story is that, Takashi Yamazaki, if he wins, he would be the first director to win in this category since Stanley Kubrick did in 2001: Space Odyssey, and that was Stanley Kubrick's only Oscar, by the way. So,
Wow. I don't think it's going to be Godzilla. I think it's going to be Napoleon.
you think Napoleon? I don't know.
I think it's going to be Napoleon.
I don't know. I don't know that there's just not the love
This
for
is the.
Napoleon.
This is. I know there's not a love for Napoleon among the people, but
Yeah.
this is the type of film that they always recognize.
Yeah, I don't know.
I think it's going to be Napoleon.
All right. I mean, because in Godzilla, by the way, it's not just the kaiju; it's the fact, and
It's everything.
there's been this reel circulating that which the entire cities were built with CGI and so realistic. I actually didn't realize that,
I
but
didn't
I
know
watched.
that. That's
Yeah.
amazing.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the entire film is gorgeous, but it's going to be Napoleon.
All right, all right. We'll see. So one person who's definitely rooting for Godzilla is lifelong Godzilla fan Adrien, and he explains why.
Hello, my name is Adrian, and I feel electric about talking Godzilla with you today. Alicia and David, please insert the Conan O'Brien Needs a Friend theme music here, unless you don't want to get sued, in which case you can just leave this in and tell the audience to use their imagination. There's a scene in the original 1954 version of Godzilla in which a man breaks it to his partner that he can't attend a concert because he has to investigate a boat that disappeared. It's such a small moment, but since it's one of the first scenes of the movie, it sets up the tone well. This is going to be a film about humans that has monsters in it, not the other way around. Subsequent Godzilla movies seem to lean more on the monsters, but in my heart, this one set the template. I'd seen monster movies growing up, Them, Frankenstein, Creature from the Black Lagoon, but Godzilla was the first time I remember thinking the monster was cool. Godzilla had a personality, had something that made it mad. It was terrifying to look at both because of its size and its singular focus on destruction. And then there was the sound, my God, the sound. Godzilla's roar would be the defining movie sound for me until I saw Star Wars, when Darth Vader's breathing became the template for terror. As I said, over the years, other Godzilla movies came, both from Japan and the United States. The Japanese ones I saw seemed to lean into kitsch over the years, at least in my opinion, until 2016's wonderful Shin Godzilla. And the American ones, I watched them all because they were Godzilla, but I never felt any connection to them. In fact, I wound up actively disliking them because they felt like a betrayal to the original magic that I felt. So I turned my eyes back toward Japan in the hopes of getting a good Godzilla movie. And in 2023, my hopes were fulfilled with Godzilla -1. I won't go into detail for fear of spoiling the movie for folks that haven't seen it, but I will touch on some reasons why it made my top 10 and likely top 5 of that year. Just like the original Godzilla, it's a movie about humans that happens to have a monster in it, You are introduced to some very real, very dimensional characters early on in the film. A fighter pilot, a group of people that survived the horrific bombing of Tokyo, other citizens of the city. What slowly emerges is a film about guilt, honor, trauma, family, and choice that is somehow propelled by a gigantic monster that, like its predecessors, destroys the ever-living shit out of things. But to me, what is at the core of Godzilla Minus One is a redemption. From the individual redemption of a couple of characters to the larger redemption of the people in the city, there is a hope that drives this movie far beyond your standard blockbuster. And incredibly, that redemption doesn't come at the expense of the very large, very terrifying, very destructive monster that has a body count in thousands. Instead, Godzilla is the impetus for much of that redemption, both on a micro and macro level. Let's see Iron Man, Thor, etc. do that. I kid, but also I don't. If you haven't seen Godzilla Minus One, you should rent, buy, stream, whatever it takes. Don't miss out on this amazing film. It's one for the ages.
Okay. Who else thinks Adrian could have a career in ASMR?
Or at least, books on listening to books or something.
Yeah, I could listen to you
Long
talk
road
all day.
trips.
I need to watch Shin Godzilla. Have you seen that one?
Yes, I've watched every Godzilla.
Okay, so
That's
you are
almost
also a
all.
big Godzilla fan in general.
Yeah, from when I was a kid. Every Thanksgiving in New York City, uh, they would have Godzilla and King Kong shows, movies on either Channel 11 or Channel 9. And every Thanksgiving from 10 o'clock to 4 o'clock, I'd be in front of the television watching Godzilla.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Are you gonna go see Godzilla versus Kong?
Yes, I will.
Yeah. So
Yes, I will.
Personally, I'd written off Godzilla movies and I'd made, dismissed that film even on this podcast. But Godzilla Minus One got me back in with. Indeed, I love what Adrienne said about this is a film about humans that has monsters in it, not the other way around.
Right,
Um,
right,
but now I'm looking at the Godzilla versus Kong trailers, and I'm like, this is pure. So one of the branches of the AODR, the Academy of Death Racers, is the Kino branch, which is like I can only define as the most bombastically fun movies. Like this film is so
right,
Kino. This is ridiculous. I kind of want
right.
to see this. Yeah.
I mean, that's the thing. And you can get both, right? You
Mm-hmm.
can have something like, Godzilla Minus One, and you could have the bombast of Godzilla Kong
Versus Kong. Yeah.
New Empire. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
it's, that's the beauty of film. And I think you can have something. You could have the same character do so many different things, and you just get to choose. It's nice to get to choose which one you appreciate. You know what I mean? Instead
Yeah.
of being shoehorned into watching one thing and saying, "Ah, this is not for me." Maybe a different take on a character will be the one that's for you, and I think that's
That's
pretty
true.
cool for somebody that speaks of Godzilla like he's a person. For Godzilla to be around for so long, you know, gives and lends it to different interpretations, and I think that's really cool.
Yeah. No, that's true. It is a very versatile character, and Godzilla Minus One is definitely a film that shows that shows what's possible with it.
Yep.
Um, so yeah, if you want to watch his nominees yourself, I'm sorry, Godzilla Minus One is the is the only one that you can't really readily watch. Everyone's trying to find it, but we have to be patient. Japan will take their time to get it out on digital on streaming. But you can watch Guardians of the Galaxy 3 and The Creator on Disney and or Hulu. You can watch Napoleon on Apple, Mission Impossible on Paramount or Sky Showtime or whatever your equivalent is. So most of these are available to watch right away. And it brings us to another technical category that actually is decides how an entire film turns out, and that's film editing. And the nominees in this category are Oppenheimer with film editor Jennifer Lame, Poor Things with Yorgos Mavropsy. All right, no, I'm going to do this. I'm going to get
Yeah,
this.
you go ahead. Go ahead.
Mavropsauridas. There we go. Boom.
That's it.
Killers of the Flower Moon with Thelma, and I know it's pronounced Schoenmaker, I guess, in English, but it's actually a Dutch name, Schoonmaker. But anyway,
Okay.
Schoenmaker. Anatomy of a Fall, Laurent Seneschal, and The Holdovers, Kevin Tent. So yeah, it's funny. The last category, no Best Picture nominees. This
Right.
category, only Best Picture nominees.
Right. Right. Uh, um, I've only seen Oppenheimer and Killers of the Flower Moon.
Okay.
The holdover, I again, Poor Things and the holdovers. I did not. Yeah, I couldn't.
Okay. Well, we'll
Yeah.
see if we can change your mind. One interesting thing about this category is you see a lot of really long-term relationships with these editors and the directors because
Really?
like the film really is kind of made in the editing room. So the two Yorgoses, Lanthimos and Mavropsaridis, uh, work together, and Tent worked on every Alexander Payne movie. Seneschal, this is his third film with Trier, and Shoemaker has been working with Scorsese for 50 years and she's won 3 times, Raging Bull, The Aviator, and The Departed, and she's gotten 9 nominations, which these are both
Wow.
records for this category. So
Wow. That is
yeah,
amazing.
but I don't think she's going to win this year. I think
Why?
I
Who do you
think
think is going to win?
I think Oppenheimer is going to win.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, and
Okay.
if anything, then it challenges it. It would be Poor Things, because I think all these films have strong editing. But there's no films like last year. The winner was Everything Everywhere All at Once, and that film felt
Right.
defined by its editing. Like that was
That's an
all the
interesting
special
point.
effects were made with the editing. So I think this is just going to come down to people voting for their favorite of the top 2 films overall. I mean, they're both very worthy.
Okay.
I think
Okay.
this is another category that where Spider-Verse should have been.
Yeah, I agree totally. I
And
didn't
Beau
even
is
think about
Afraid,
it
very
before.
good.
I agree totally.
Yeah.
I can see Oppenheimer winning
Yeah, yeah.
just on the taste of Oscar voters.
Yeah. I mean, if it's just got the momentum, people are just going to check it off down the ballot
Right.
unless they
Right.
have a strong feeling otherwise. But Poor Things is likely to shine in other categories, which we will talk about after a short break.
Okay.
So, yeah, we were saying Oppenheimer is likely to be a greedy goblin at the Oscars.
How many
But
do you think they're going to take?
I mean, I think we're going to get at least 2 acting, director, best picture.
Ooh, boy.
We'll talk through what else we think
Okay.
is
Okay.
gonna.
Okay.
Uh,
Okay.
but I do think that the visual awards are where surreal, candy-colored Poor Things is there to shine. It's the
Okay.
time to shine. Um, yeah, so Yorgos Lanthimos, he's a director that many love or just don't connect with. He's one of my favorite directors, and Poor Things feels like a Lanthimos movie. So indeed, I can see why some people might be more or less into it. It's unabashedly odd, it's explicit and deeply thought provoking, but it's also the most incredible looking Lanthimos movie yet. And so I asked Abby, she's also a fan of Poor Things and of Lanthimos' English films in general. So I asked her to talk about the awards it's nominated for that we're talking about today and Lanthimos
Yeah.
in general. So I will play that interview now. All right. So I am here with Abby now, or should I say Abby?
Abby is fine.
We're just having
The-
we're just having a
I'm
big
not-
conversation about pronunciations and accents.
Yes.
um Now, Silenzins will recognize you from our Beacon 23 book coverage. And of course, we have a Shift and Dust coverage coming soon, my auditory editing issues aside. And Lorehounds, of course, will know you as our regular correspondent on our Loki coverage. Now, you are a Japanese based Hungarian Romanian film fan. Do I summarize that?
Yeah. Summarized. I'm not Romanian. I'm just from the country is Romania. But,
Right. That's why I say
you know how
Hungarian
it-
Romanian.
Yeah. Slash.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
But So how would you describe your general taste in film overall?
Oh my, it's a jumble of everything. When I go for entertainment, I can watch anything, Marvel and what have you, and this comic based movies, and also comedies and dramas that is like for entertaining. And then you go serious movies like what
Mhm.
Scorsese would call cinema, but not Scorsese because I don't like him very much.
The
Anyway,
handshaking meme.
yeah, well, it happens, right? So we all have our preferences.
Mhm.
But I'm not very picky, but I find lately that I'm not very uh, good at watching these big action movies. I just can't tune in with them anymore. I
So you're
maybe
not
it's
gonna
an
do the
age
Fast and the
thing.
Furious?
I
Yeah.
don't know. Maybe it's an age thing because
Yeah.
I watched these kind of things before. All the John
Right.
Wicks I watched up until
Right.
the last one, and I couldn't just. I went halfway when no more. It's enough.
Oh, really? Okay,
Yeah.
John Wick is
So
my
yeah.
next action franchise I'm gonna tackle
Oh
the next
my.
couple weeks. Yeah.
Oh my. Yeah. Okay.
But, we're here to talk about Poor
Mm.
Things and
Yes.
Yorgos Lanthimos a
Yorgos
little bit in
Lanthimos.
general.
Yes. Yes.
And Yorgos Lanthimos, he is a Greek director, and it's kind of
Mm.
funny because he spells his name. Now, most Americans would look at his real name and say Georgios, but I happen to know
Oh.
I've had friends with that
No,
name
yeah.
before. It's
Yorgos.
pronounced Yorgos.
Yorgos.
So he
Yes.
actually changed the spelling of his name for his movies so that people stop mispronouncing it. Just a
Oh
fun
no!
fact.
Oh, interesting. I didn't know that.
um,
That was all
but
right. Yeah,
you and I, we've both seen all of his English language films. So that would
yeah.
be The
Oh,
Lobster, The
are they all?
Favorite.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, The Lobster, The Favorite, The Killing of a Sacred Deer, and Poor
Oh,
Things are
yes.
his
Okay.
English
The
language
English
films.
language.
Uh,
That's. I
Um,
didn't watch the Greek films yet. I
yeah,
don't know the Dogtooth thing. I have it somewhere on my
yeah,
list.
that's to be honest, Dogtooth is the only one that I would really recommend to anyone other than a Lanthimos
Hmm.
completionist. But yeah,
Hmm.
I'll get into that a little bit why in a minute. Would you say that you're overall a Lanthimos fan? And how would you rank those films, the English language
Oh,
films?
oh, I think yeah, I like his work, and it's quite recent that I got into it. I suppose
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know about them before, but I like the favorite very much,
Right?
and
So
kind
the
of
favorite's
after
your
that,
favorite?
the favorite is my favorite, and I went back and watched his other things, other
Okay.
movies. Yes, so yes, the favorite is the favorite. Yeah.
So the
Uh,
favorite's the last one he did with Emma Stone and also Olivia
Olivia
Colman's in
Colman.
there, and
Yeah.
this is
Hmm.
set in the British
I'm
royal
liking
court.
that he's working with the same actors. It's cool, kind
Mhm.
of.
And, do you like better The Favorite or Poor Things now?
Hmm. The favorite, and then Poor Things,
Okay.
I think.
Okay.
And
All right.
after that, I think The Lobster.
Okay.
Yeah, I think. Yeah.
I think my
Mm.
ranking would be Poor Things, The Lobster, The Favorite,
Mm.
and then Killing of a Sacred Deer
Mm.
amongst the English
Interesting.
language. And I'd
Yes.
put
Okay.
Dogtooth up near the top of that list
Oh,
too.
I must watch that. Yeah. Okay.
But so why can you tell me briefly what is it that you like so much about Poor Things?
Oh, everything, I think. Like it's such a weird little story for the start, and this whole
Mhm.
idea of going through the development of a being from baby to adult while being in an adult body, so to speak. It's kind of really weird, but it's an intriguing storytelling, I suppose.
Yeah.
And you can see the way she goes through these phases in life,
Mhm.
and it's very
On
interesting
fast
to
forward.
see on, yes, on
Yeah.
fast forward, and her development as a person, redevelopment, you want to say. Yeah. Hmm.
Right.
And it's also so beautiful. I like,
Mhm.
it's you're watching, you go into the museum and watch like expressionist art or something by watching this movie. I was like, and there's also this weird lens, the focus of how it's being shot, like
Right.
this fantastic, like it's not a real place really. It doesn't feel like a real place. It's so fantastical. It's so like Technicolor thing, like, but it's art. You're watching at art while
Yeah.
getting immersed in the story. I love that very much. Some people might find this weird. I don't know.
But I love that it's weird.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
honestly a plus for me. Yeah.
Exactly. Yes, same.
Well, actually, so this visual design is the reason why we're talking about this movie today, rather
Mm.
than in part one, which is of course stuffed with interviews as it was.
Mm.
But before we get into that, you and I were briefly talking before we started recording about some of the negative reviews that we've been seeing. So what kind of negative reviews have you been seeing, and what are your thoughts on those?
I just saw the one because I didn't go and check out reviews when watching.
Okay.
I wanted to go in really
Right.
virgin.
Yeah.
Okay, but and now I see some doctor, wrong person, saying that this movie is misogynistic because she is exploited and has sex. And what? Like, what are
Yeah.
you? What were these people watching really? Like this whole, she has agency
Right.
through
That's the
all
key.
through all of it, really. And it's
Yeah.
which is prostitution. Yes, she has agency in that too. She chooses
Right.
that, right?
Right.
And
And she stops the
all
moment she
true
wants to.
way. Exactly. She's doing what she wants. It's not for a moment that she's forced to do anything really. And then
Yeah.
she's, what's his name? Mark Ruffalo's character. I don't know the Mark Ruffalo. Anyway,
Yeah, Mark
when
Ruffalo.
he's trying to kind of control her, that's not working for him,
Mhm.
right? So I don't
Right.
know why, how, what are what are these people watching really? And just because you have shocking scenes and it's sex in
Mhm.
it, and she seems to enjoy it, right? So
Mhm.
how is that misogynistic? How? I mean,
Right.
I don't understand, like, why.
Right. No, so this is a topic that's close to my heart in a way because I live in Amsterdam, and I was a
Oh.
tour guide in Amsterdam for a
Mm.
long time, including in the red light district.
Mm.
So I've gotten the opportunity to think a lot about the history
Oh,
of
yes.
prostitution, and I've gotten
Mm-hmm.
the opportunity to speak to women and men who work in
Yes.
sex work. And so I do get frustrated that overall around the globe there's this bias against sex work, which, as people say, is the
Yeah.
oldest
Yeah.
profession for a reason. Now,
Yeah.
I'm not going to sign up for that work myself, but far
But
be it from
oh,
me
I
to
know.
tell
Yeah.
someone
Yeah.
else what to do with their
What to
own
do
body.
exactly? Mm.
Yeah. So I appreciate that this film explores that in a somewhat light way. You've got like a random
Yeah, it's
dude
kind of
crab walking across the room and a lot
yeah.
of silliness.
Yeah, it's kind of comedic a bit and lighthearted.
Right.
So yeah. Yeah, it's kind of silly at point. It's also, just throwing the light on some serious themes, right? So
Right, exactly. Well, as I said, we're talking about this today because, in addition to Best Picture, Director, Actress, Supporting Actor for Ruffalo, and Adapted Screenplay, which David and I talked about in part one of the series, Poor Things is arguably the strongest contender in a bunch of the so called technical awards, or we're calling them the Blockbuster Awards. It's nominated for cinematography, film editing, production design, costume design, makeup and hairstyling, and original score. While Oppenheimer is likely to sweep a lot of the headliner awards, I feel like these categories, plus Best Actress, maybe Screenplay, are where people are most likely to honor Poor Things because there is a lot of love for the movie. Now, this is where I have to bring up Dogtooth, which was this was Lanthimos's first Oscar-nominated film, nominated for the International Award,
yes.
and it actually explores a lot of the same themes as Poor Things. Like it's
Mm-hmm.
about raising people in an environment of control and
Mm-hmm.
what is nature versus nurture and a lot of
All
things that
right.
come back.
Mm-hmm.
But we have the budget for Dogtooth was $250,000 US dollars, and the
Uh,
budget for Poor Things is 35 million. So that is literally a
well,
14,000% increase in budget,
yeah, but
and
it
you can
shows.
really
It
see it.
shows. It shows in
Yeah.
the quality, really. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, you called it like I call it a Technicolor dreamscape
Mm,
uh, that they
yeah.
set up. Like, how would you describe? I keep thinking of especially the ship when they're on the ship and like
Oh
this,
yes,
even the
that's oh
smoke
yeah,
is green.
right. It's just wild, wild. It's like a work of art. Yeah,
Yeah. It really makes you
it's
feel
a
like you're dreaming a
painting.
little bit. Apparently they made the sky with like LED screens in the background, so
Mm,
they were kind
mhm.
of more immersed in this backdrop, this
Oh,
world that they were in while they were filming. And yeah, the production design is just the costuming.
right.
It's a strong contender in costuming. It's a strong contender in makeup, especially because of Willem Dafoe's character, who has
Oh
this like
yes, yes,
Frankenstein
prosthetics.
appearance.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and hair. Emma
I
Stone's
just had
walking
that
around the whole
low,
time.
long,
Yeah,
wow, flowing
her
hair.
black
Wow,
hair down to the
great.
butt. Yeah.
Uh, uh,
Swinging back and forth in every scene where we see her like
yeah.
learning to
Mm.
waddle as a child to walk as a woman. Yeah, the cinematography is another really strong point. Now, so Lanthimos and cinematographer Robbie Ryan, they selected 4 lenses to switch between throughout the film. And what did you think, Abby, about the use of the fisheye lens
Oh,
in
that
this
was
film?
so interesting. That not you don't see that in many other movies, but it adds such a the surrealness of the world. Like it's the fantastic
Right.
sort of like you are watching from whose eye are you watching this, and like immerse you in a different way in a world. It's so interesting. Yeah. Mm.
Yeah, I feel like they use the lenses they switch back and forth between them, and
Mm.
especially the fisheye lens, indeed, to like
Mm.
throw you off and to ask like, whose eyes are we looking through? It makes
Yeah.
this
Mhm.
voyeuristic feeling,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Have you ever seen any of so the movie is based on the book by the same name by Glaswegian writer slash artist Alistair Gray. Have you ever
Mm.
seen any of his
No.
paintings?
Oh,
Actually,
he's
quite.
he's
He's
painting
also a
too.
painter.
Oh, so I see.
It's interesting because his art also has this like surreal imagery that with these colors that are so turned up to 11 that
Mm.
it feels unreal, and
Mm.
also sometimes this sort of fisheye lens effect. So it
Oh,
feels like the
so if
cinematography
they're
feels like another way they're
wow
adapting the
adapting
story.
that to
Yeah.
oh, that's interesting. That's
Yeah.
great. That's great.
And the book itself has his drawings, not his paintings, but it is a multimedia book. So highly recommend anyone who loves the
Okay,
film look into it.
well,
Uh,
another one goes on the list then. Okay.
yeah. Not if your reading list isn't long enough. um, but Abby, is there anything else you wanted to shout out about the film? Any other highlights for you, or things that you like? What if you were to tell your friend who's like, I don't know if this movie's for me. Why should I watch it? What would be your pitch?
Well, if you like art in general, like painting,
Right.
it's a must watch to delect your eyes and to challenge your
Mm-hmm.
brain a bit, maybe by the
Yeah.
subject matter. And I know that it might not be for everyone, because it's quite graphic in some parts, I suppose. But
Right.
also it's
Sexually, but
important.
not
Yeah,
yes.
but it's
Mhm.
important.
I mean the
Why?
surgery, I guess, yeah.
Yes, yes, sure. But
Yeah.
it's not for children, but it's also
No.
it's really, yeah, it blows your brain a bit, and sometimes we
Yeah.
need that.
Right.
Cinema. Yeah, right. And it's not that it's like it's always the cinema versus entertainment, and it's not that it's not entertaining, and it's funny at places and it's you are in there with the characters, and you want to know what happens next and how they evolve, and it's not that it's not entertaining.
Oh, yeah, it's very entertaining. I
So
mean,
yeah, so it's not a doom and gloom,
you
and
get to see a
it's
lot of
not
people
just
acting foolish.
exactly.
Yeah. And I love the side characters in this too. Like
Mm,
I forget the name of the her female friend she meets on the boat. That was actually it was
oh,
2 men she meets in
mhm.
the book, but in
uh,
the movie
oh,
it's a male and a
right.
female, and the woman is hilarious.
Oh yes,
Especially
it's,
at one point Mark Ruffalo's character goes after her, and I won't spoil it, but her
yeah,
responses
yeah.
are just delightful.
And Mark Ruffalo was very, very good and very funny in this
Yeah.
whole thing, like going crazy over.
So you think that he deserves his best supporting actor nomination
Sure, 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 sure. Oh, for sure.
over Willem Dafoe, who didn't get one?
Well, he should have gotten one, but it's a tough one, I guess.
Would you
Mm.
nominate Willem Dafoe over Mark Ruffalo, or would you say they're tied?
Maybe tied in a
Yeah,
different
they're
way.
different
In
roles.
a different
Yeah.
roles. In a different way, yes.
How would
Mm.
you describe Defoe's character?
Well, weird, but with a lot of pain. And you
Mhm.
just get these snippets about what his life must have been with this
Right. Right, the stories
abusive
about his
father. And oh
childhood,
my God,
jeez.
it was just
Yeah.
really shocking. Like,
Yeah.
and yeah, interesting.
Would you say that Poor Things is your pick for Best Picture, or do you have another movie you're rooting
Well,
for the
to be
big
fair,
prize?
I didn't watch. I'm not a death racer,
Okay,
and
fair.
there's a lot of movies that we only get to be available in cinema after they get some
Right.
awards. Like
Right. So you
I
haven't
really,
seen
really, yeah.
Oppenheimer
I'm not. No, no. Well, it
because it's
wasn't
not out in
released
Japan
yet.
yet.
No,
Yeah.
and but I'm not sure I want to watch it actually.
Okay.
Sorry.
Okay.
I
No.
don't know. It's maybe not. I watched Barbie and I love
Yes.
Barbie, and
Yeah,
I'm
Barbie's
very
great.
sad that she's not nominated for anything.
The Greta Gerwig. Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
he
she's
made a
nominated for adapted
mm,
screenplay, so
okay,
she's
okay.
competing with this for adapted screenplay,
Mm,
and although it's
mm.
looking like that might go to American Fiction maybe or
Yeah,
Oppenheimer.
okay,
Yeah.
okay. Well, they
Yeah.
they are going to throw everything at Oppenheimer and good luck and
Right.
everything. And okay, it's just not okay. I'm not a big fan of the whole subject matter to
Yeah.
be say. Okay, and I believe that it's great. Okay, and it's I have a very love hate relationship with the director, so I am not into him not much.
What, Nolan? Christopher Nolan?
Yes, yes. I
Okay.
watched
Mhm.
some, and yeah, I liked some. What is that? Interstellar. I liked. Yes. I'm not a big fan of Tenet. Yeah.
Okay. My favorites are
No.
Inception and The Prestige, I guess.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Maybe yes, that too. But not this latest. I don't know. Anyway, and I'm so sort of the same with Scorsese too, because I know who
Yeah.
the killers of the whatever, and it's now on Apple Plus. I don't watch that because I'm so sorry, but he's also using one of the actors that I can't watch on anything anymore. I
Who's that?
decided that this contains Leonardo DiCaprio. I'm not watching
Oh,
it.
really?
Sorry,
Okay.
and it's not starting now. I
Yeah,
watched.
yeah.
I tried.
Right.
Okay,
Right.
it's just
No,
never
it's
works
fine.
for me.
I have that with Tom Cruise. Yeah.
He's always tagging a lot of
Mhm.
films. Scorsese with
Right.
DiCaprio, it's a thing, like with the
Right.
Yorgos Lanthimos and Emma Stone, I
Emma Stone.
suppose.
Yeah.
But no, I can't.
Everyone needs a
Sorry,
muse.
I
Yeah.
can't.
Fair.
So uh,
Well, what were some other films this year that you want to shout out? Like you and I were just talking about the Japanese film Monster.
Monster was great. Yeah, Monster we
Yeah.
saw with my daughter twice and spent a whole day arguing about it and what happened. Okay, it's great. It's thought provoking.
Yeah, that one's about two school kids who well, it's about one school kid in particular, and then the
Mm,
the perspective keeps shifting, so you keep
yeah.
seeing it from another point of view and
Mm,
getting more of this
mm,
story filled in about
mm,
this whole bullying at school incident, and is it the teachers or the students or
yeah.
any other films that you particularly like this year?
I like the Godzilla minus one.
Yeah. Japan coming
Uh,
in hot this year.
yes, I like when they throw a lot of money at something, then it shows. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Although
because
Godzilla is
a lot
especially
of
known for
Godzilla movies, there's
keeping.
some of them are quite substandard, and it's just
Yeah, absolutely.
uh, and yeah, I'm not particularly liking the Hollywood take on the Godzilla, like treating it like
Mm.
your neighborhood monster.
Have
Like a
you
Spider-Man
seen
monster. I don't know. It's not.
right?
Yeah. Okay. So
Have you
yeah.
seen Shin Godzilla? That's the other I haven't watched it yet, but that's the
Mm,
other one that people
I
say is very good.
my daughter watched all the Godzilla movies before this one with
Mhm.
this her friend, and she said
Okay.
it's good one, the Shin Godzilla also. But I didn't watch it. No,
Okay.
not all of them.
Well, if people want more
Okay.
Godzilla, that's another one to watch.
Yeah. Yeah. What was that? The little film I liked. it's not nominated for anything or anything, but
Mhm.
it's stayed with me. It was, moved my heart. It was A Man Named Otto. No, don't
Okay.
know if you heard of that.
Right. Yeah,
Uh,
that was, yeah, it
Tom
came out last
Hanks.
year,
Well,
but that's
yeah, it was
mhm.
last year. Last year?
I've heard
Yes,
it's
the
really
movie.
good. Yeah.
Yeah, I liked it.
Yeah, I
Tom
still that
Hanks.
one's still on the list. I keep
Oh.
hearing good things. That Tom Hanks is at his Tom Hanksiest, but, like, in a
Mm.
grumpy way.
Yes, yeah.
Well, thank you, Abby, for coming here to chat about Lanthimos and Poor Things, a film we both love. So, everyone, if you haven't seen it yet, watch it. It's got 11 nominations. But
Yeah,
yeah, be warned, there's a lot of sex. We've touched on
they
that.
should pick up some of that, at least some.
Yeah. Well,
Well,
thank you so
thank
much.
you, Alicia. See you.
So I have to say that just after we stopped recording, Abby threw out there that she thinks there's too many biopics. So I said the people will know. And she totally backs up Davy Mack's story about the opening of The Boy and the Heron that we talked about last episode. And she also gave me a tutorship on how to pronounce, and I'm going to do my best to say this correctly.
Go ahead.
Shogun. Shogun. The hit show on FX you should be watching. It's also being covered here. I'll be actually be sitting in this week for it. Jean, did you have any thoughts about what Abby and I had to say?
I mean, I haven't seen any really negative reviews for Poor Thing.
Mm-hmm.
And the sense that I got from talking to different people who have seen it, that if anyone thought it was misogynistic in any way, they're stupid. Like, yeah, I just really don't know why people turn to that
Mm-hmm.
viewpoint. Um, because everyone who I know who's watched it did not have that viewpoint.
Mm-hmm.
They felt it was a very empowering film,
Right.
right? And empowering for the main character, not the the
Right.
side characters. Like she
Not the
was
people trying
empowered
to
in the
control
film,
her. Yeah.
right? Like she was empowered in the film. Her choices, her decisions, and her life. So I was really taken aback when I heard you and Abby discuss like the negative reaction to the movie was
Mm.
nothing that I've heard before.
No, it's
So
good.
I'm interested to know, like those persons who did react negatively to it, like what was their reason what was their reason? What did they find so harrowing in her story? That would be something that I'll be interested in hearing people discuss.
Yeah, sex just makes some people very uncomfortable. And especially the idea of, being free about it.
Well, it's not the first movie to
No.
show people
Mm-mm.
having sex, right? You know what I mean? Like,
I
so
mean,
what's
Game of
the
Thrones was a hit, right?
right? Exactly, and
Yeah.
I just don't. It just doesn't make sense to me that people would have that view. But I know that it's a loved movie. I just couldn't. Let me just put my cards out on the table. I really don't like period pieces.
Oh.
Um, I really don't like European period pieces. Um, unless they're
This is my
fantasy or
babies. Yeah.
yeah, they have to be like fantasy, something like sci something. Um,
Mhm.
but just European Western period pieces, they're not my thing. I just don't.
You
I
think
feel
they'd be overplayed for you, perhaps, or
yes, yes, that's exactly what it is. I've been inundated throughout my life with this cultural,
Mhm.
you know, in-depth cultural what's the word I'm looking for? Exploration of Western, culture, Western
Mhm.
society that I just don't. It's not something that I relish watching anymore.
Mhm.
Like that's one thing that I know that has changed for me. Like I couldn't watch Sense and Sensibility today.
Okay. Oh, now Jane going after Jane Austen in
No, I'm
particular,
just
stabbing my heart.
I couldn't watch that film today. I just couldn't.
Alright, alright.
And I think
To each their own,
that's
yeah.
my hesitation towards, a film like Poor Things.
Yeah.
Um, even with Napoleon, you know, I didn't really enjoy the film. I wanted to see it because of the historical aspect of the Napoleon story and being Haitian American is you know some a story that's near and dear to me.
Mhm.
But
But
you know
they skipped over that stuff anyway, so
exactly,
yeah.
exactly.
Although maybe
So
a 4-hour version
oh, there's a 4 hour version.
is
Is
apparently
there?
gonna be. Yeah,
Oh
it's
wow. Okay,
coming.
maybe they will cover that.
Yeah.
So we'll see. But that was the main reason that I watched it
Mhm.
like I couldn't watch yeah, I just that's my thing. That's my thing. So
Yeah,
poor things.
but
Go
I
ahead.
have to say about Poor Things is
Hmm.
that I mean, it's dressed the, production design and the costuming and everything, very, um it's all very Victorian influenced, but I wouldn't call it steampunk because it doesn't have that, like,
Mm,
gear motif, but
right.
it's a very modern take, and the way that Bella acts and the way that, she interacts with people, it's a, like, Victorian inspiration, modern realization, and actually, the book itself wasn't written in Victorian times either, it was written, just a few decades ago, so,
Oh
that's
wow,
kind of
that
appropriate,
I
yeah.
did not know. Okay.
But as I said, David did watch this film today, so he sent
Yeah,
over a few notes. And so his reaction to the film was the writing for Defoe is hilarious. So many parenting themes that take me back. Love the inversion of the Frankenstein story. It's like an adult version of a Wes Anderson movie, which I think is
that's
pretty
funny.
fair.
That's funny.
He says, "What an extraordinary film. Operates on so many levels. Defoe should have been nominated. It's a shame that the sex and prostitution angles got so much discussion when that is just one part of a many faceted tale. I think, rather
Mm,
than Oppenheimer, a better pairing is Barbie and Poor Things in terms of self discovery and actualization, exploring the self, the world, and then back to the self again."
mm. That's deep stuff from David.
Well,
Man,
yeah. See?
wow.
You should watch it.
And full disclosure, number two, I'm not a big
Mhm.
Emma Stone fan.
Oh,
Yeah, yeah,
no.
yeah, yeah. I'm sorry, guys. I'm sorry, dear
We all
listener.
love our things.
Yeah.
It is very Emma Stone, but,
Okay.
she
Okay.
does so she gives a performance of her career, because she has to
Really.
evolve throughout the movie
I
physically
mean,
and
I've like I said, I've not heard anything negative about
mhm,
her performance or
right.
about the film. Everything that I've heard is duly positive, and maybe in 5 years I'll watch it.
Okay, okay, fair enough.
Maybe.
But yeah, so thank you again, Abby, for talking to me about Poor Things, although I do humbly acknowledge that Poor Things is not the only worthy nominee in these categories. Um, so let's run through these, production design categories,
Yeah.
starting with production design. And so the production design nominees are Oppenheimer, Poor Things, Killers of the Flower Moon, Barbie, and Napoleon. And I just want to make a note here that a lot of people confuse production design and cinematography. So, cinematography is basically about how the camera is positioned and used and how it moves, things like that. And production design is about what the camera captures. So the production designer is the one who's responsible for deciding this is how the movie's going to look overall. And yeah,
Barbie.
yeah, this category I was going to say is basically Poor Things to Lose unless Barbie sneaks in.
Barbie.
Yeah.
Has to be Barbie.
It's definitely between those two, I would say.
Okay.
But if Killers of the Flower Moon looks like there will be blood to anybody, it's because the production designer Fisk most often collaborates with Terrence Malick. Um,
Okay.
and yeah, a lot of these production designers and set decorators have had multiple nominations, all worthy, but yeah, I missed films like Zone of Interest and Saltburn could have also been in here.
Okay.
And then, so moving to a branch of the production design is costume. So the nominees in the costume category are Oppenheimer, Poor Things, Killers of the Flower Moon, Barbie, and Napoleon. And I've actually kind of been low key rooting for Napoleon in this category ever since I saw that
Really?
film. Yeah, because
Oh,
it's just
why?
well, because I'm into the history, and so I really appreciated the detail and accuracy of the costumes and the makeup and the hair of Napoleon. Like they really nailed that and had some spectacular pieces that worked perfectly. Worked better than the script.
I mean, you're right, but Barbie.
Well, I also think that this one will probably go to Poor Things, but um,
Really?
could be Barbie. Killers of the Flower Moon was also is a good contender because there's a lot of rich authenticity. And by the way,
Yes,
um,
that
it's
is yes, yes.
Jacqueline West, the costume designer, is also the costume designer on Dune Part Two, so she
Oh
might get a chance
wow,
next
amazing.
year. Yeah. And, yeah, I don't know, yeah, The Poor Things is just, like, Victorian for millennials, like, that it's taking a look that I adore and updating it, and it's done well at Precursor Awards, so I think there's a good chance. But, yeah, as you say, Barbie's another strong contender in this category again. But it just feels like, yeah, with there's the Barbie costumes, and then the Poor Things costumes, like, kinda turn that up another level, so
Okay.
Poor Things is somehow a little showier than even Barbie.
Huh.
So yeah, the related category, makeup and hairstyling, the nominees are Oppenheimer, Poor Things, Maestro, Society of the Snow, and Golda. So Mike referenced Golda earlier when he was talking about
Yes.
Guardians of the Galaxy and not being nominated here, and I agree. It should have been nominated instead of Golda. The Death Racers are considering mostly Golda the biggest clunker of this year.
Wow.
So yeah, it's directed by Guy Nativ and written by Nicholas Martin, and it's Helen Mirren stars as Golda Meir, who is the fourth prime minister of Israel during the Yom Kippur War, and it's just it's uncomfortable for a lot of people to watch, not just because of the current politics, although definitely that makes it awkward, but it just feels tone deaf in general, and
Hmm.
sometimes like some of the things that the characters say, you're like come across as a little offensive. But the worst part is that it's just
On purpose or
no,
not knowing that it's offensive?
I mean, I think the idea is that, like, Golda would have said it that way,
Okay. Okay.
but it's just boring on top it's just, my eyes glazed over. It was really a painful watch for me just because
Oh
I was
boy. Oh
waiting
my
for it to be
gosh.
over, and this is how a lot of
Wow.
people, not everybody, obviously it has its fans,
Of
but it
course.
is the one that people are complaining about the most in the death race.
Okay.
But this is the makeup category, and I do have to say the makeup on Mirren was transformative. They made her look like Golda Meir, and they had the right like speckling to blend the makeup and the prosthetics, and the right jiggle and the jowls they added. And but to Mike's point, you know what else featured transformative makeup? Guardians of the Galaxy 3.
Guardians of the Galaxy 3.
I mean, just think about Mantis. Um,
So who do you have winning this category?
Oh, so by the way, anyone wanna watch Golda, it's on VOD. Who I have winning, well, okay, so Maestro was considered the front runner at the start of the season, but there's been a lot of backlash against that film in general, and also, like, Cooper's choice to make the
Where
nose
the
extra big.
nose. Yeah.
Yeah. But it's also they did good aging makeup, yeah, I don't know. Oppenheimer, I said that they would win a lot of categories because they've got the overall momentum, but I don't know that it especially stood out in the makeup category. The reason why it's nominated is because they had this huge cast of characters who had to be aged over time, so it's
Right.
basically an
Right.
aging nomination. I think there is a good chance Poor Things will win. It's been doing well in awards up to here, and especially Defoe's makeup. You know, he plays this Frankenstein character with, and that's yeah, really elaborate makeup. And also, the other thing people are talking about is Bella's evolving hair, which like changes with her characterization over time. And
Okay.
I like that idea because the hair part often gets forgotten in the hair and makeup awards since they combined it into one. They used to be separate. But the one
So
I've been
you
rooting for. Hmm?
is Poor Things.
No, the one I've been rooting for is Society of the Snow.
Really?
Because yeah, so that's the film about the soccer team that got lost,
Yes. Yes.
and as they're starving, it's just so impressively done, like the freezing and the starving, and you really see these guys wasting away, and that's also why it should have gotten a VFX award. And the makeup was done by the team Martí and Uribe, who won previously for Pan's Labyrinth, so they are
Oh
deserving.
wow. Okay. What a great visual that is.
Yeah. I have to shout out one film that should be on this list is a Nigerian film called Mamawati, and it is done in a stark black and white, but they make the makeup and hair just like really pop because of that, and they have these elaborate hairstyles for the women, and they use this white makeup, and it's just really striking. I could stare at that film all day long.
So you've got Poor Things taking the last three categories so far.
No, well,
Yeah,
do I think? Yeah, well, I did
production,
say, yeah.
costume, and hair
Yeah, I
and
did say
makeup.
that this is the part of where I think the
Yeah,
Poor Things is gonna shine.
gonna shine. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
but I think the streak is up with the next award, cinematography. I think cinematography is an Oppenheimer one. Um,
Yeah, yeah, that's gonna be that's the type of movie that wins this category. This historical look at something fantastical that occurred in human history.
yeah, and the bomb, I guess it's all about
Yeah,
the bomb in with that movie.
yeah.
But I do really like the cinematographer for that one, Hoyte van Hoytema, and he's a regular collaborator with Nolan and many other incredibly shot films he did, like Nope and Let the Right One In, Her, Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy, etc. But
Wow.
this is only his second nomination, so good for him. Um, Poor Things is again the other one. It's another strong contender for this category. This is the second collaboration between Robbie Ryan and the director Yorgos Lanthimos, and also their second nomination. So obviously, it's a winning formula. Them working together. They last worked on The Favorite, and their next film is going to be the two of them and Emma Stone again. So I guess you're out, Jean. And it's called Kinds of Kindness, probably coming out this year.
About
But we've also got Killers of the Flower Moon in this category with Rodrigo Prieto. And this is his fourth nom, including Brokeback Mountain. So, yeah, you can definitely see that in Killers of the Flower Moon that this is someone who likes to do these sweeping landscapes.
mm,
Americana. And then Maestro, the cinematographer, was Matthew Libatique, and he's best known for the Aronofsky films. This is
okay.
his third nomination. And then we have the new kid in the class, which is the film called El
A
Conde.
condo.
Yeah, El Conde. It's on Netflix, and the cinematographer is Edward Lockman. And it's the third nomination for Lockman. It's striking black and white cinematography in like a stark Chilean countryside setting. And the film itself, it's a dark satire portraying the 1970s Chilean dictator Augusto Pinochet as a 250-year-old vampire seeking death. So I don't want to spoil anything, but also a big figure from European history shows up. But controversially, it's someone from Europe, and it's not Nixon, who was actually caught supporting Pinochet. So people are like,
Pinochet,
"Are you
yeah.
just going to ignore that now?" And it was also the film was made by a controversial director, Pablo Larraín, and he's previously known for films like Jackie and Spencer and two other nominated films. Soon Maria with Angelina Jolie as Maria Callas, who she was an opera singer that Leonard Bernstein called the Bible of the opera.
Mm.
And also, he's a producer on the documentary we talked about last time, The Eternal Memory. Now, I
That's
actually,
on my list of films
The
to watch.
Eternal Memory, yeah,
No, El Conde.
El Conde, yeah. Were you aware of it before? Or did you just become aware
I
of it
was.
because of the Oscar?
No, no.
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw people chatting about it,
Hmm.
and I'm just like, this is something I need to watch. And so
What caught you eye? The cinematography or the premise?
the premise,
Mm.
like, how could you finish as a 200-year-old vampire? Okay, I'm in.
Yeah, let's see this.
I'm in. I'm in. I need to see what
Yeah.
this is about. It sounds so absurd, but
Yeah, it
yeah,
is absurd. Yeah, I enjoyed this film, but I get why it's a sore subject for some Chileans.
of course, definitely,
I asked someone else who's closer to the subject. You heard in the last episode, I talked to Pedro about the documentaries, and he brought up
yes.
Pinochet, and so we did a little sidestep, and I asked about the South American sentiment toward this film. So I pulled out that conversation so you could hear us argue both sides of this controversy. So
Awesome.
let's take a listen to that. Now I have to ask, bringing up Pinochet, what did you think of El Conde?
Yeah, I have a bit of a problem. I don't like Pablo Larraín approach to the
Okay.
film. Pablo Larraín, who is a producer on The Eternal Memory.
Okay, right.
I don't know. I don't like how he brings some historical figures to the film. I think that the comedy didn't hit it for me. But maybe it's because I'm a person that is like used to the 70s South American dictatorships, and I think that sometimes the comedy is not like appropriate to make
Okay.
it funny. But yeah, it didn't work for me.
All right.
But I know people that do you like it? I don't know exactly.
For me, it was, I think I gave it, I think I gave it a 3 or 3.5. I like satire, and I guess I know about, I've traveled through Argentina and Chile and, heard a lot about all of the political era there that, Pinochet is just one part of. And I understand like the deep feelings, but I am someone who kind of likes to not laugh at, but to satirize. But I also understand that there are objections to the filmmaker because of also his parents' political connections, that they're a right wing family. And but on the other hand, it's like, well, who better to satirize his own?
Yeah, he's a filmmaker that is a bit polarizing in South America. I
Mm-hmm.
know a lot of people that love him. I know a
Mm-hmm.
lot of people that hate him like very
Yeah,
much.
I have no strong feelings.
Yeah, I like Spencer, and
Yeah,
I really like Spencer. I
yeah.
think
There's about Diana Spencer. Yeah,
yeah, and this one didn't hit it for me, and that's okay. But I'm
yeah.
looking
No,
forward
that's
to
okay.
watch Maria. That is his
Yeah,
last film in the trilogy of the myths. He made a film about Jackie Kennedy,
right.
Spencer, and now Maria Callas.
Okay. All right. What do you think, Sean? Does the controversy make you more or less curious about the movie?
Um, I'm neutral to the controversy, but I
Mm,
understand it completely.
mm-hmm.
Like his sentiment is something that I get. Like I could imagine, let's say, someone, a Haitian filmmaker, were to satirize Papa Doc
Mm-hmm.
Duvalier as a vampire, that could be something that sets my mom and my sisters who were there at that time, could set them aback, where I
Oh,
would
wow.
have a
Yeah.
different, viewpoint on it because I was removed from that reality.
Mm-hmm.
So I get it totally. Like I can understand it. But again, it's something that I feel like the premise of the movie sounds really absurd, and
Mm-hmm.
I like absurd.
Yeah, it's been a lot of absurd, dark satires this year. I think the world's in the mood for a little dark humor.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
look what the world is experiencing and has experienced over the last 3 years, right? Four
Mm-hmm.
years. Yeah.
But yeah, El Conde was nominated for the cinematography, and the cinematography is great. And Chile's a great country to visit, by the way. Highly recommend it. All right, we're going to take our second quick break. And when we get back, we're going to be talking all about the auditory side of things.
Okay.
And we're back, and we're going to jump straight into sound, like sound in general, and also the category of sound, and also the sound of another interview. No? So I asked lore master and regular collaborator Jedi Bob to talk us through his experience of watching movies and what he thinks of this year's sound nominees. And this is what he had to say. So I'm here with Jedi Bob. Hi, Bob. How are you?
Very well. Thank you. How are you?
Okay. Thank you for joining me today to chat about the Oscar sound nominees. So this is actually our second recorded interview together. Check the Wool Shift Dust Book Club Winter Holiday Special for our first interview together, sandwiched between our greatest gift audio drama and my rendition of Auld Lang Syne. We chatted then about the origin of your nickname, the role action figurine collectibles play in your life, and your Deadeye Jedi Bob YouTube channel. Now, if you can give people a quick run through here of what you cover on your YouTube channel.
On my do quite a few episode reviews, most recently X-Men and the Spider-Man 90s TV series. I also cover Star Wars The Bad Batch, and I'm going to start playing the Last of Us video game because they just added accessibility features to that one. So
The
it's
first
going to
one
be
or the
fun.
second one?
The first one. I have the second one
Okay.
as well.
Yeah, the
So
second one was, yeah. Because I actually, yeah, I recommend people look up your Last of Us and your Mortal Kombat gaming on your channel too.
oh yeah, I'm actually recording season 4 of Invasions as I play through that, and that'll be up too as well. Speaking of Mortal Kombat, so
Awesome.
yeah.
But today I asked you here to pick your movie fan brain. I've heard you comment before that you sometimes get surprised reactions when people find out you're a movie and TV fan.
Well, I mean, it's usually, oh wow, I had no idea you watched movies. How do you go about doing that? And I usually, well, these days talk to them about audio description narration,
Yeah.
which we didn't
Hmm.
have in the 90s. It's such an amazing new way for blind people to enjoy movies the way everybody else did. So yeah, I get those kinds of responses, and not at all difficult to answer. So
Right. Well, yeah, I've gotten the opportunity to watch some movies with you and listen to these audio description tracks, and I'm really impressed by the amount of artistry that goes into it. Because, for instance, yeah, the well done ones, like the one we did was for Evil Dead Rising, just the
yes,
way that they were pacing their voice and the tone, and it just matched exactly the action on screen. Like it really was translating the overall feeling that I was getting from the visuals into sound. So that was just, yeah, it's really cool to see when it's well done like that.
I agree.
Yeah, you also like to go to the movies with your friends pretty regularly. I bet there are listeners who don't realize that you can get headsets for audio description there when they work.
You can, and it might be a good idea to ask the local theater staff about the batteries and whether or not they're charged. That definitely is a must if you want to experience the whole movie. But when they do work, they are, I, I guess I can say this, quite a sight to see when it comes to audio description.
Yeah. And of course, audio descriptions aside, I guess you might say that it's really the sound mixing that brings film to life.
It is, and these days I tend to watch a movie with the audio description turned on first, and then to appreciate the
The sound.
sound,
Okay.
I tend to go back to my favorite scenes and really get a better idea as to what they added. Because with audio description, you have to describe the scenes, but at the same time, you've got the sound going on. So I do
Right.
enjoy both. So it's kind of interesting to juggle both.
But yeah, I noticed that you like to consume stories in multiple ways to get like a more 360-degree picture of it. So, like audiobooks in
Yeah.
braille and things like that.
Yes,
Um,
from various perspectives, right?
so yeah, so you were the person I most wanted to hear from when it comes to opinions on this year's Oscar nominees for Best Sound. Just quickly before we get into our discussion, the 5 nominees in this category are Oppenheimer, The Creator, Maestro, Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning Part 1, and The Zone of Interest. And I know you've watched Oppenheimer, The Creator, Maestro. I know you were working your way through the Mission Impossible series, but I don't know if you got to Dead Reckoning yet.
I'm almost finished with Dead
Yeah.
Reckoning.
Okay. Oh, so you got to listen to some of it.
Yeah, I'm over halfway through that. So
Oh, okay. Okay. And unfortunately, The Zone of Interest is currently only available in German with subtitles, no English dub yet. And you don't speak German, so that would make that tricky one. But I think you got to listen to a couple interviews with the director and sound engineers about that film.
yes, I did. I need to go back and actually get into that a bit more. It was a bit difficult for me to, I guess, appreciate that sound without actually watching it, but they
Right,
did
of
put
course.
a heck of a lot into it.
Hmm. So, Zone of Interest aside, what are your overall thoughts on the nominees?
I think the creator stood out to me the most.
Okay.
And I would say that's because of the weird voice stuff that they did with
Mm,
the human voices being somewhat mechanical yet human at the same time. I never really heard anything like it in terms of vocal performance. You know, you've got the human voice, but at the same time, it occasionally went into more of a mechanical kind of AI voice with certain characters in the film. And that really stood out to me. When it comes to, you know, the basic sci-fi sound effects, I think those were probably normal, I would say. I think the vocal performances really stood out in terms
yeah.
of the characters and the creator.
Yeah, I mean, I agree that I think, we did a review of the creator on the Lorehounds, David, Jean, and I, and we knocked the writing and the story side, but everything, and the acting and the technical side, this is my favorite for VFX actually. But yeah, I do have to say my favorite for sound on this one is probably the Zone of Interest, just because in that one interview that I shared with you,
Mhm.
they were talking about it as they created two films. They created the film in the garden where the Hoos family lives,
Right.
and they created the second film on the other side of the wall in Auschwitz, and layered those over each other, and that really is kind of what makes the movie what it is.
And that
um,
makes me want to see the film all the more.
I know, I
Really.
know. I've been looking for it. I'm like, where's the dub? Come on.
Exactly.
um, it's an English director. But yeah, I mean, they're all five strong contenders in different ways. It's a really strong category because, Mission Impossible and Oppenheimer, obviously, like the classic type of nominees for this category, with all, the action based Foley work in the Mission Impossible movies. And of course, like that bomb in Oppenheimer.
Oh, yeah.
Um, yeah. Good chance Oppenheimer wins just because good chance Oppenheimer wins a lot of awards this year.
I'm thinking it will. I would imagine it might just take almost everything home, although I mean it hasn't happened yet, so who the heck knows at this point. I'm thinking it'll probably take a lot home though.
Yeah, yeah. But you said you liked it better than you expected.
I really did. I mean it's been quite a while since I've been in high school, but there were some things that were covered in the film that, you know, we never really went into, and I think that was certainly captured in terms of vocal performance and especially with the foley and all that when
Mhm.
it comes to sound. Um, the bomb certainly stood out to me. And when the audio description narrator was describing certain things that the main character was seeing, they went into this interesting, I would have to say, well, it almost reminded me of sci-fi sound effects when he was seeing all of the particles on screen. um, I'm not really sure how to describe those scenes because it really
Mm,
didn't narrate a lot of the scenes where he was kind of considering the atom and things like that. But that
right.
sound
Yeah.
production stood out to me there.
Yeah. Yeah, cuz actually I have to say I think the sound is one of the strongest things in the film. Even like I think the sound of the bomb is stronger than the visuals of the bomb.
Right.
But yeah, a lot of the scenes, there are some scenes that have some really cool visuals where he's almost hallucinating things, and that's how we get a peek into what's going on inside his head. But in most cases, it's a lot of scenes of them sitting in room, and it's really the sound that's doing the heavy lifting there.
Definitely.
And yeah, and what did you think of Maestro? I mean, that's an interesting addition in this category because it's since it's about a composer, it's really the music that's carrying that sound mixing there.
Yes, that stood out to me first and foremost because you have, of course, a live orchestra, and I was glad that they were able to provide that. And I don't really know for sure. I haven't done my research in terms of the music that they selected, but I would imagine all of that is stuff that he wrote.
Yeah,
And I like
yeah, totally.
that. I like that it all really depended on the music there because, of course, it's the life of a composer. And I've only seen it once, but you know, toward the ending there, when we have uh, that tragic scene, you don't hear any music. I remember there was that one scene where he was just kind of screaming into his pillow. You just heard him, and that was it. And I think that really stood out to me there,
Yeah.
feeling helpless in that moment. And I love that there was no music there toward the end when you had the main protagonist and having to go through what he had to go through in terms of watching someone having to struggle with a terminal illness there.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So will you be watching on March 10th to see who takes home the prize?
I will be watching, indeed.
And you're rooting for the creator, I take it?
I am, although I am not going to be opposed to Oppenheimer taking away a pretty good
Yeah,
amount of
okay,
stuff
fair.
either.
And where can people find you?
You can find me on YouTube and Twitter under the handle Deadeye Jedi Bob.
Excellent. And yeah, thank you for lending us your time to talk and for doing all that movie watching homework.
Well, you are very welcome. As I said when we were talking previously, it was quite a lot of fun in terms of homework. So that's my kind of homework.
All right. Speak to you again soon.
Alrighty.
Okay, Jean, what did you think?
I agree. It's the creator.
Yeah.
I agree it's the creator, but maybe for different reasons. Um, I'm not one to get too technical, wading in the weeds. Right.
Mhm.
I know what causes me to react viscerally,
Mhm.
and this before when we spoke about the creator, I said I could just turn off the sound and watch the visuals. Right.
Right.
I can close my eyes and just listen to this movie
Mhm.
and just be taken transported into a different world without the
Yeah.
visuals. And it would have been that way the first time I saw the movie or the fifth time that I've seen the movie. So to me, that is really hitting every marker that I could want out of a film. Yeah, there's no real comparison. It's just it's just so well done. The
Mhm.
voice acting, the nomad, just the way that it is,
Mhm.
just striking and just yeah.
Yeah, I mean, technically it's an incredibly strong film and yeah, I'm glad that it's getting the recognition on the sound side. I do worry that Oppenheimer will take this one just because of the
I think
Oppenheimer
Oppenheimer
movie.
wins.
I'm
I
pulling
think
for the zone of interest though
why?
because the zone of interest, like I was saying to Bob, it's um they made two separate movies of sound
Right.
and then layered them together to create this unnerving experience. So I think they really told the story through sound in that film.
Huh. Interesting.
But then yeah, so the sound, of course, it's not only about the Foley work and the sound effects, it's also about the music, which
Yes.
brings us to our last two categories.
And let me just start off by saying before you get into the who's who,
Mhm.
the who's not, where is the color purple?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, actually, yeah, before we list who did get nominated, just like let's pour one out for the ones who were
Yeah.
left out.
Yes.
There's yeah, The Color Purple definitely should have been on there. Well, I was going to talk about that more in the best song, but for me, the best score of this entire year was for a Polish film called The Peasants. I brought it up in the last
Okay.
episode talking about
Okay.
animation.
Yeah.
It's a film with like that with the impressionistic art style animated, and the soundtrack was actually made by LUC, who he made like he's a rapper in Poland who made a Rebel Babel film orchestra band and then created this like really hardcore folksy like mix of modern and antiquated sounds with horns and
Oh wow.
strings and oh it goes so hard. It's such a good dark folksy soundtrack, but yeah, they
Okay.
always miss
Okay.
my favorite. They always miss my favorite.
Okay.
Last year it should have been Emily by Abel Korzeniowski, and the year before it should have been Cyrano from The National. Just saying. But yeah, the ones that did get nominated are Oppenheimer with the score by Ludwig Göransson, Poor Things with the score by Jerskin Fendrix, Killers of the Flower Moon, score by Robbie Robertson. American Fiction, score by Laura Karpman. And Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, score by John Williams. So, did you get a chance to sample these scores, Joe?
I did, and I'm here to report that Oppenheimer is going to win.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you on that one. We will, by the way, I'll link to some playlists on Spotify and Deezer because yes, I don't use Spotify in the show notes so that you can listen to them yourselves. But I think that you're right. I think Poor Things is kind of I think Poor Things is the least likely to win in this category because I think the score, there's like theremin music and a lot of experimental music, and it works
Hmm.
well in the context of the movie, which is supposed to be the point of this award. But in reality, people are like listening to the music by themselves, and the winners tend to be scores that work well on their own.
Right.
Yeah.
For my 2 cents, it should be American Fiction.
Yeah, okay. I mean, that could be the dark horse. It's like a very jazzy score. Only female nominee on the list, by the way, Laura Karpman.
Yes.
And
Yes.
she also did the scores for What If season 1, Ms. Marvel and
Oh
the Marvels.
wow. Wow. Okay. Yeah. I think American Fiction should win the category, but it will be Oppenheimer.
Yeah. Yeah, Oppenheimer, so the score Goranson, he's a frequent collaborator with Childish Gambino, and like he's worked with Adele, Alicia Keys, Rihanna, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And you can just feel the inventiveness in the music. It's like a classic film score, but more modernized.
Yeah, it is, but no, no. I won't put on. Will you put that on
Um I
outside of
mean, to
watching the
be
film?
honest, the only if of any of them in this list, probably that one, but the one that I'm gonna be listening to is The Peasants. That's the one that I'm gonna
Okay.
be putting on,
Okay.
yeah. But yeah, Göransson, by the way, he composed the Book of Boba Fett theme song and also scored
Oh
Tenet,
wow,
and he won an Oscar for his work on Black Panther.
that's amazing.
So
But
this
it
would be
still
his
should be.
second Oscar. Yeah, it
It
should be.
still should be American Fiction. Given all of that, given all of that, give me
Yeah,
American
so
Fiction.
but we've also got John Williams in the mix, who's always a player. Like he's been nominated so many times since 1968 that they have a separate Wikipedia page listing them
For his.
for his nomination. He's won 5 times, but the last time was in 1994 for Schindler's List.
So, do you think he gets a achievement award here? That's what
I
you.
mean, he's already won 5 times. I think people are like, "We get it, you're good."
Okay.
I mean, it's a good score. It's a good classic, like the movie. You know, it's a classic score tinged with nostalgia and
Yeah,
callbacks.
it didn't do it. The movie didn't do it for me, so
Yeah, you watched it?
I did.
It was okay.
Yeah.
Just okay.
Yeah.
And I have to shout out also the Killers of the Flower Moon also had a solid score. I would have been going for that previously. But yeah, also another point about that is that the score was done by Robbie Robertson, who he was the lead guitarist for Bob Dylan in the 60s and 70s, and Rolling Stone has him on there as 59 on their list of greatest guitarists of all time. Frequent Scorsese collaborator, but sadly he passed away in August,
Oh,
so this is his
yeah.
last chance to win.
Yeah. That stinks.
Yeah, very sad. I mean, I guess glad he went out on a high note, but we've learned also with the Chadwick Boseman debacle that they don't always reward people posthumously. So
Right. Right.
still think it's Oppenheimer.
Yeah, I do. Unfortunately. Let me not say unfortunately. A lot of people enjoyed that film way more than I did, so they'll be
Yeah.
happy.
No, I mean, it's for me, it's yeah, it's not my favorite film, but it is the score that I'm rooting for, I
Right.
guess. Yeah. Write-in campaign for the peasants starts now. All right. And that brings us to our last award of the Blockbusters technical category, and that's original song. It's starting with a double header by Barbie. This is where Barbie is most likely to win if they don't split the votes. So we've got What Was I Made For by Billie Eilish, who's most likely about to win her second Oscar with her brother Phineas
Yeah.
O'Connell. And then the other one is, of course, I'm Just Ken
Yeah.
with Mark Ronson and Andrew Wyatt. I'm rooting for I'm Just Ken personally. I think it's unironically good.
Yes, I will have to agree with you that I would like to see I'm Just Ken win this
Yeah.
category. I don't think it will. It's
Yeah,
not gonna win.
um,
It's not gonna win.
this team did win, previously for Shallow from, A Star Is Born,
Oh, okay.
so
Okay.
they are good writers. I mean, we all win at least. We're gonna see I'm Just Ken performed at the Oscars, so I hope they have like, please get Simu Liu up there or something dancing in the black t-shirt. Uh, by the way, there could have been 3 songs nominated for Barbie if it were allowed. Oscar has a rule, only 2 songs max per movie, but Dance the Night by Dua Lipa was another one that people were talking
Oh
about.
wow, I didn't know there was a rule. That's amazing. Wow.
Yeah, because, there was also I think at the Golden Globes, all 3 were nominated.
Okay.
Yeah, Billie Eilish won. But if Barbie does split the votes, then the other contenders are there's Killers of the Flower Moon. The song is called Wazaze, a song for my people. And this is from George Scott and performed by the Osage Tribal Singers. But it's a lovely, basically like a powwow jam song. So,
Okay.
it's just honored to be nominated. And then we have 2 one movie wonder nominees. We've got American Symphony, the John Baptiste doc, and the song is called It Never Went Away, written with Dan Wilson. Are you a John Baptiste fan, Jean?
I am. I am. I think he's a great musician, and that's another on my list to watch is American Symphony.
Yeah, it's a doc on Netflix, and it shows him touring and winning Grammys while his wife is battling cancer and writing also a Pan American Symphony. Pedro in the last episode was talking about he was a fan of the documentary.
Yeah,
I was middle on it personally, but yeah,
he's a really talented musician.
he's a very talented
He's a
musician.
really talented
Completely.
musician.
And yeah, I'm very curious. I want to see this American Symphony that you pulled together. I kind of wish that the movie focused more on that because they're just little
Right
teases about all the different groups he was pulling together. I was like, I want more. I want to know more about this.
about that. Right.
Yeah. And then the final nominee is it's Diane Warren because it wouldn't be an Oscars without Diane Warren getting a song nomination.
uh,
uh, this time there were 3 contenders this year, and the winner was The Fire Inside and Flaming Hot, which was performed by Becky G. Diane Warren has been nominated 15 times, 7 in a row. She
Jeez.
got an honorary Oscar in 2022. We thought it might stop, but nope, she still keeps getting nominated.
It thought it might stop. It's never gonna stop.
It's never gonna stop. She until she wins or dies. No, I hope
uh,
I wouldn't mind her winning at some points. It would be kind of funny if this was the year. But she's written some truly iconic songs. Like she wrote Nothing's Gonna Stop Us Now, If I Could Turn Back Time, Because You Loved Me, Unbreak My Heart, I Don't
yeah,
Want to Miss a Thing. Like the woman is a legend. But
she is. She is.
the movies we have to watch because of her nominations are often stinkers. So this one was a relief. It wasn't bad. It wasn't that bad.
Uh,
So Flaming Hot, it's available on Hulu or Disney Plus, and it's like the very embellished, like flourishified version of the story of inventing flaming hot Cheetos. Uh,
yes.
I mean, shrug. Ava Longoria's directorial debut, like good for her. Do you have any interest in this one?
No, I don't.
No,
I don't
just
even like flaming hot Cheetos.
I like spicy, but I'm not a fan
Yeah,
of
I'm not.
powder cheese on.
Yeah,
Um,
I mean, God bless, but yeah, no, thank you to the movie and the Cheetos.
It was yeah, it was okay. I watched it with my friend. We did a movie marathon with 3 movies, and that was the 3rd one we watched, and she was just like, "Oh." But also, like, the 2 we watched before that had us crying and feeling things,
Oh,
and
okay, yeah, that's
yeah, and this one was like,
a
"Oh."
nice change of pace, then definitely.
Yeah. So that wraps up the technical awards. Do you feel ready for the Oscars, Jean? Are you gonna tell people who they should vote for in their Oscar polls?
No, I'm not going to tell anyone who to vote for. Um, but yeah, I think I going back to Mike's earlier point is that
Mhm.
we just would love to see more diverse view of what makes good art.
Right.
You know,
Mhm.
not just a more diverse view of whose stories are told, but how those stories
Mhm.
are told. So hopefully that's something that as we progress in the 21st century, get a little bit more of that shift. That's what I want to see.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I guess the movies you're rooting for are Barbie, the
Yes,
creator,
yes. Barbie, the creator.
American Fiction.
Um,
Or just the
American
score from it?
Fiction for the score,
Okay.
um, and Across the Spider Verse.
Yes. Okay. Mhm.
Everything else is just.
Have you seen Nimona, though?
Have I seen?
Nimona, it's
No,
okay,
I
so
haven't. I haven't seen it.
Nimona's another one, nominated for the animation, and that's
Yeah, I haven't seen it.
I'm torn between rooting for Spider-Verse and that one.
Huh. Okay. Tell me a little bit.
So it's basically I'm torn because it's like I think that Across the Spider-Verse is a technical and artistic achievement and like great character and stories and just everything is great about it. But then Nimona is also great technically and story-wise, but something about Nimona has been just living with me. Like certain scenes
Okay.
from it are
Okay.
stuck in my head and certain ideas from it have been stuck with me more. It just nuzzled a
Okay.
little deeper into my soul for some reason.
That's really cool. Because I feel the same way about Across.
Hmm. I
There
mean,
are
I love that
scenes.
movie. Yeah.
No, I know, but there are scenes that have stuck with me in that from that film.
Hmm.
There are themes that have stuck with me from that film. So about storytelling and yeah, the best film
Yeah.
of 23.
Yeah, no, it's definitely in my top films of the year too. But yeah, that's I think that's a great note to end on. That's exactly what
Yeah,
we want from movies. We want scenes to that creep into our minds and stick there. And
yeah,
we have the people who are nominated in the categories we talk about today to thank for a lot of these indelible images and sounds and songs that make these movies come to life for us.
yeah, and we want to celebrate all of those people, even the ones that we don't even watch or may not be fans of.
Yeah, somebody loves
No,
them always.
yeah, there's always somebody who
Even Golda.
even even Golda.
Um, well, we're not going to do the full outro today because David's not here. So he'll be back personally to thank especially all of the lore masters. You know who you are, and we appreciate you so much, Sean and I as well.
Yes,
Um,
we do. Thank you for the voicemails, the emails, for this and everything that we do. Thank you for the Discord talks and yeah, just the whole community. We really do appreciate your support and your feedback.
yeah, absolutely. And just to shout out the other affiliates on the network. So we've got our first official episode of Rings and Rituals out, Marilyn's new podcast. So she's going back through the Rings of Power and looking at, just getting a little deeper into the cultural lore in both Tolkien's world and our world. And we've also got Properly Howard, a new season is coming up soon with was it something in Fugazi? I forget. And also, the Properly Howard guys and David and John are going to be covering Severance season 2 in the Severance channel whenever that comes out. I'm thinking it might be next year, to be honest. And yeah, of course, I have to shout out Woolship Dust, which is diving back into the Dune world and, of course, prepping for Beacon 23 season 2 coming up in April.
Yeah.
All right.
Thank you so much for having me, Alicia.
Thank you so much for being here, Jean. And thank you, everyone at home, for listening to our mumbles and musings.
Take care, everyone.
The Lorehounds podcast is produced and published by The Lorehounds. You can send questions and feedback and voicemails at thelorehounds.com/contact. Get early and ad-free access to all Lorehounds podcasts at patreon.com/thelorehounds. Any opinions stated are ours personally and do not reflect the opinion of or belong to any employers or other entities. Thanks for listening.